What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Chris of The Sound That Ends Creation. Thanks for being here today, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here too. So, we need to talk about Boomers, Zoomers, Desperate Coomers. I mean, great title as always with with every album in your catalog. Um, so, first question is, were you planning to take a new approach to this album as opposed to what we heard on Memes, Dreams, and Flying Machines and, like We Are the Burden, etc.? Or was this, or were you kind of like sticking with the formula and just maintaining your sheer brutality?
Well, I'm not sure there's ever really been a formula, but yeah, this time around I wanted to do more instrument separation. So like I added in a bunch of I added in like saxes and trumpets and stuff like that in the last album, Memes, Dreams, Flying Machines. But they all kind of like followed each other, and they all like did like the same rhythms and melodies and stuff. This time around, I was trying really hard to keep the instruments separate, so that everything's doing something different the entire time. It sort of worked. Some of the times things would go along with each other, but yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I accomplished that.
Would you consider like experimentation? Like, do you almost consider the songwriting process to almost be like a mad scientist experiment, like just bringing in many different elements into one? Or is there like a specific, like, underlying armature that applies to every song that you make?
Hmm. Um. So I have like an idea of what I want to do for most songs. Like rhythmically and stuff. Like for this one, for example, for this album, the way I would get inspiration is play jazz records at two times the speed, and then try to copy that with my guitar in like a grindcore setting. And so I would lay down the guitar for all the tracks, and after I get that done, I would go through and make like real drums for all the tracks. Then go back and make all the piano, etc. So I tried to have like a week or so in between working on each song, so I'd come back to it fresh. You know what I mean? So yeah, like there's some structure, but yeah, it's like just doing whatever sounds good. You know what I mean?
Taking a week in between songs, I mean, that's cool that you can almost like discipline yourself to doing that. But do you almost find that that's almost kind of like nightmarish in a way? Like, if, especially if you have like a lot of leftover creative energy and you just have that impulse in you, like, do you almost have to kind of like force yourself to take that week off or something?
Yeah, there's times where I want to go back through and listen to all the songs, but I'm like, I gotta keep these things fresh when I come back to them, because in my older albums, I would work on like an entire song at a time, and I would get that song stuck in my head, and I'd find myself like humming it and stuff. And because I got it stuck in my head, I thought, oh, this will get stuck in other people's heads, so this must be a good song because it got stuck in my head. When in reality, it's just because I heard it like a million times, and it's actually a pretty mediocre song. So I've been trying to do this and take like a week or so off in between working on each one, so that I could come back to it fresh and evaluate if this is actually a good song or not.
Hmm. And kind of, I know you're probably sick of being asked this. I'm just assuming that every journalist like asks you, "Oh, what's the meaning of the album name?" But I do find like your album titles to kind of be relevant at the time. Memes, Dreams, and Flying Machines. I mean, that is, humanity. We have plenty of flying machines and plenty of hoverboards, and but and pretty much memes are what defines people's existences nowadays. And now, there's plenty of boomers. There's been a lot of Zoom calls, and I could think it's fair to say there's been a lot of desperation at these times as well. So like with the
Okay.
with these titles that are involved, like, do you think of like, is there a statement that's being addressed within these album titles, or is the title meant to just kind of be like almost as experimental or as open as the music itself?
Uh, I mean, maybe subconsciously there's something like we're all Zoomers sometimes, we're all Boomers sometimes, and nobody wants to be a Coomer, but a lot of us are, you know. So, but mainly it's because it rhymed and it was funny. So, yeah.
Really? I just made the question so goddamn deep for like the most anticlimactic answer I've ever gotten in an interview. But it worked out great. It worked out great.
I have been asked that question a bunch of times, and now I'm trying to think of like a cool answer, and I haven't come up with it yet.
Oh man, you're in for a world of hurt. I got some brain picking ones for you, man.
Let's do it.
This is gonna be a long fucking 20 minutes. But It makes up since most of your songs are relatively short anyway. But do you like? Is there sort of like a statement that's addressed within your music, or is there sort of like an ideology that you're expressing lyrically, or even just within the sound that ends creation? Because I feel like that these titles, even though you say it rhymes, it sounds good. I feel like that there's almost a lot to be analyzed.
Yeah, so each album I would get I hate writing lyrics, so I just take inspiration from what I'm like ingesting at the time, you know? Like last album was all like Rick and Morty memes kind of, but this time I was watching a lot of political coverage. I still watch a lot of political coverage. Like there's Twitch streamers. I don't know if you know who Hassan Abi is or Hassan Piker. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Well, he's a Twitch streamer, one of like the largest streamers, and he's a leftist political commentator. So that's the stuff I've been like ingesting since like the beginning of the Democratic primaries, and so that's where a lot of like the inspiration comes from. I mean, you can see in like the lyrics, this is all like leftist ideology that's in the songs.
The primaries themselves couldn't give you enough to write lyrics to. You had to you had to poison yourself with more toxic bullshit.
I mean, I kind of like watching politics and stuff and just trying to figure out what like everybody's thinking. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think it's like shallow at all or like unmotivating that you take it as it comes or that you're just ingesting at the time, because I feel like especially with your style, your music does capture a moment in time. So if what you're ingesting at that time is what ends up being lyrically on the song, I don't think that's a problem at all. I think it really captures a timestamp. I almost feel like if people really want to know that exact mindset you were in at that time, I think your music is honest enough to really answer that question.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Do you take inspiration from multiple sources? You mentioned that there's a little more politics driven, but I mean, do you explore through other mediums as well, whether it's video games or other movies or TV shows or even visual art?
Well, I do incorporate a lot of like TV samples and movie samples and stuff. It's mainly things that just fit with the songs that I think is funny. But yeah, this is all like straight up like leftist ideology in the songs. I feel like I'm kind of mad with where the world is at right now. You know what I mean? And that's yeah, this is kind of like my outlet.
Yeah. Why do you feel that like out of all this time? I mean, I know pretty much what the answer is going to be, especially given everything we've experienced the last 19 months. But was this like an ideology or a meaning that you've always wanted to express in your music, and maybe just this last year was like the straw that broke the camel's back?
Um, So yeah, I'd always been a little bit wary about talking like political things. You know, like people always say, "Oh, you're gonna alienate like 50% of the people or whatever." But I don't think there's actually. I think most people are leftists, but they either don't realize it or are afraid to like talk about it. You know, so I don't think I'm even alienating that many people. And if I am, I don't really care.
Well, to tell you the truth, I know people on the left and on the right. I see at metal shows. I've seen right wing people attend left wing people shows. I've seen left wing people attend right wing people shows. It's all on the fucking internet. It's all on the internet. I think really when you go to a show, like, I mean, I'm not going to mention bands, but I'm sure you and I both know a handful of bands that have ideologies that either you could disagree with or that I could disagree with. But when we're at the
Right,
show, it doesn't really matter at that point.
right. Yeah, like I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Do you in order to like get that inspiration in general, when you're putting pen to paper and writing, do you almost like have a usual realm that you have to go to, whether it's a studio or a practice space, or do you sometimes like does the idea for a structure of a song sometimes strike when you least expect it?
So in terms of place where it happens, this is the place, man. This is where all the magic's made. I'm in my little studio right now. But in terms of inspiration for the songs, each song is actually inspired by playing jazz records at 2 times the speed. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. Like I would take that and try to copy that on guitar in like a grindcore setting. And that's literally where all the inspiration comes from.
Your music is without a doubt has that grindcore sort of effect to it. And what to you, what makes something grindcore? Because I mean, Pig Destroyer sounds very different from like Napalm Death, for example. I mean, there's similarities, but like Napalm Death is obviously sort of like the the daddies of grindcore, and like you see how it evolutionized all the time. Do you think that there is an element that a grindcore band always has to have to make it grindcore, aside from songs that are 11 seconds?
I think I think it has to be speed, pretty much. Speed and like a hardcore influence, I would imagine. That's a really hard question to ask, actually, because everybody's going to give you a different answer, right? There's always those people that are like super pure and say anything that's not Pig Destroyer or Napalm Death isn't grindcore. But I'd venture to say that like early Daughters or like early Number 12 Looks Like You or See You Next Tuesday, like those are grindcore bands too. I guess they're false grind, but if that's false grind, then I'm false. Like so,
Well, with all those bands that you just mentioned, false grind sounds like an awesome genre to me. So,
right?
yeah. Well, you know what I like to say is just say a word, add the word core at the end of it, and there you go. You got a genre. And the best is if you go on Wikipedia and look at that subgenres page on Wikipedia, and there's only like two bands on the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm starting to call myself jazzcore. I don't know if that's like a good way to describe it or whatever. It's just I've been having such a hard time trying to describe what this sounds like to people. I'm just starting to use the word jazzcore now, so I totally go with that.
Yeah, well, that's an awesome genre. And what's funny is too, jazz music pretty much, I mean, if you want to talk about like the reputation that metal has, they say metal musicians are devil worshippers or yada yada yada. I'm sure we've heard it all. Jazz was the exact same way. I mean, jazz was pretty much heavy metal music for its time as well.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any specific favorite jazz artists that you like to listen to, or any jazz albums that you tend to have nostalgia towards?
So I'm still pretty new to jazz. I was just looking for I don't know if you watch anime. There's an anime called Kakegurui. It's about like kids gambling at a high school, and they have like this opening like sequence or whatever. That's a really fast like jazz swing song. And so I was listening to it. And I'm just like, man, what would happen if we just turn this into metal? And that's kind of where it came from. And I started diving into like other like swing jazz music and such. And yeah, like I just picked some songs that sounded awesome and sped them up. I guess the band I got most of the influence from would be this one called Hot Swing Sextet. They dropped an awesome album last year, and that's really where a lot of the inspiration came from.
Would Avatar: The Last Airbender consider to be anime? Because that's my favorite show ever.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I have the elements tattooed.
Oh shit! Alrighty.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, were you a fan of that show?
I'd seen the whole thing. I saw most of the Korra one as well, but ended up stopping towards the end. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I just hope you didn't see the Last Airbender movie.
I didn't. I explicitly skipped it because I knew it was so bad. I've heard so many bad things.
Let's just put it to you this way. That made me drink bleach before it was cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sure enough, if you've seen that movie, you're immune to the virus that's happening right now.
That's awesome. Have you seen any anime movie that's ever been good? Because I've always wondered if there's any like live action ones that actually turn out to be good.
I mean, I was never really much of an anime buff. Not that I didn't like it, but I was just never much of a TV person to begin with. Avatar just happened to be the show that resonated with me in a significant way. But
it was also on when we were kids too. So you just watch the Saturday cartoons.
I was 11 when that show first came out, and I just turned 28. So, yeah, like I just any live action rendition of a cartoon just sounds catastrophic to me.
Right. I can't imagine. I did see. I don't know if you're into Attack on Titan, but they did do a live action one like a couple of years ago, I think, and that one was actually pretty sweet. But like the storyline is completely different. It's like I don't understand what some of these people are thinking. And like the one for Death Note was really weird too. So yeah, it's just a bad idea.
I think when it's originally released in one way, it shouldn't be remade in another way. Like just imagine if The Sopranos decided to become an anime show.
Honestly, I would watch that, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'd probably watch it too, just to see how quick I would shut it off, because what time would be wasted. But before we drift even further off topic, though, I'm about to ask you the most difficult question for songwriting. Are you ready?
Hit me.
How do you know when a song is done?
um, it's just a gut feeling. Like I do have some parameters to hit. You know what I mean? Like obviously, I want the guitar to be finished, and then the drums, and there has to be keyboard and like sax and trumpet and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just a feeling. I There are certain like marks I try to hit. Like I want it to be a little over a minute at least. But other than that, yeah,
Do
it's
you
just a good feeling.
do you think I've heard a couple of judgmental people like say that grindcore is the easiest music to make because it is so short? But do you have a? I'll give you the opportunity. Do you think that just because your songs are short, that makes your songwriting process easier than a progressive metal band that writes a 27-minute long song?
Nah, I think they're probably both the same difficulty. Um, Especially my stuff. Like uh, I do like all kinds of like crazy sweeps and like weird things with the guitar and such. Like I'm trying to relearn my songs right now actually, so I could play them live. And when I was writing them, I wasn't sure I was actually going to play them live, so I just kind of did it without thinking I'd have to. And now I'm going back and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking, man? Like some of this stuff is just it's weird, you know. So yeah, I would say that it's all like the same. You know what I mean? Like everything, it's the same difficulty as writing like a prog song or whatever.
Yeah, but I will say that I'm willing to bet that the amount of time it would take me to listen to your entire catalog, because you have a good handful of albums out now, the
Mhm.
amount of time it would take me to listen to your catalog would only make it through about a quarter of an Opeth album. So,
Hey, you're probably not wrong. You're probably not wrong.
yeah, that would be like it's like 40 minutes late to a progressive metal concert, made it before the first song ended. 40 minutes late to a grindcore concert, the last band is already on
Concert's
the
over.
encore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Going back though, off topic a little bit because we talked about jazz and different influences. Are you a fan of video game music at all? Because I think like that could almost be like a cool idea to incorporate if you were to take like a Zelda song or a Mario song and play that at a different sort of tempo.
So I don't hate it. I mean, that's actually kind of a good idea. There's this genre that's starting to like pick up in popularity. I don't know if you've heard of cybergrind.
I've
Is
heard
that
of it.
something you know about?
So,
Okay, yeah, yeah. So it's starting to like, get bigger and bigger, and I actually I have a podcast myself where I interview mathcore adjacent bands. I've had a lot of cybergrind bands on, and so I've been listening to a lot of it lately, and I'm starting to think about incorporating some more electronic stuff to my music. I don't know about going so far as like Nintendo core, like the chiptune stuff, you know, but yeah, I'd be interested in exploring that realm a little bit.
yeah. Have you heard of this mathcore band called the Arson Choir?
Oh yeah, dude, they're awesome. I love Mark. He's great.
Oh yeah, I interviewed him twice. That band is awesome. I call them the West Coast Glassjaw.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Very similar to Every Time I Die is something that I was thinking about whenever I was listening to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually had them on my podcast too. Yeah, they're great. I'm looking forward to their full length.
Yeah, they're great guys, and God, I freaking hope they come to New York one day because that would be insane.
It would be.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them live someday.
Yeah, that's cool that you have like your own sort of like a grindcore podcast. Just maybe talking to other musicians, maybe also open up your mind to new ideas and as well to incorporate into your own work.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've found so many things that I wouldn't have if I wasn't trying to like turn out consistent content. Yeah, it's really opened up my eyes. I've gotten more involved with the community because of it. Like it's been great all around.
Yeah, that's how I've gotten involved in the scene as well. Like I've always said that just starting a podcast could almost just be the gateway to getting in any scene now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of bands just want to have interviews because I feel like it's super important because it shows like your personality and people can connect with you more, you know. And whenever I was starting to release stuff under the Sound That Ends Creation, that was the one thing I was really looking for. And I just realized that there was a kind of a hole in our scene in terms of like nobody doing interviews. So I figured why not fill it.
Yeah, it's definitely a great way to help, especially if you promote the underground as well, and bring that up with you. It's always a great thing. When the pandemic first hit, because I work in pro audio and sound gear for a day job, and I can't tell you when the lockdown first happened how many podcast kits that we sold.
Yeah, I believe it. Actually, I was trying to get stuff to start podcasting last year, and the camera that's on my computer now is like twice the price it is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for a really, really fun chat. You're the third interview for the day and ended it on the most positive note. Is there just
Alrighty.
anything else that you would like to promote for the release of this brand new album? Obviously, thanks to a certain fucking virus that shall not be named. Obviously, shows are a little bit up in the air at the moment. Some are happening, some are not. But obviously, when this shit clears up, we could be expecting to see you on the road quite a bit, right?
Oh, definitely. I've actually got a tour in the works right now for November. We're pretty close to getting everything all settled and ready to announce. But yeah, I'll be going out with another band. As far as other things to promote, so you can pre-order the album right now at the Sound That Ends Creation at bandcamp.com. I've also got the podcast, The Cast That Ends Creation. You can find it on all streaming sites, YouTube, things like that. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Everybody, Chris of the Sound That Ends Creation, Boomers, Zoomers, Desperate Coomers. As you believe me, don't judge an album by its title. You want this fucking album. Be sure to pick it up. It's absolutely kick ass. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. You're awesome.